I would say good evening, but it isn't a good evening. My name is Don. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to subscribe to our channel, please hit the red button. And when you hit the bell for the notifications, select all so you'll know when we are on the air. I come to you tonight with sorrowful news that the President of the United States has, in essence, declared war on the United States. Here's the story from CNN. Hold on just a second. We lost some contact. Basically, the president has now strongly suggested that all 50 states, especially states that have been affected by the unrest in this country in the last few days, order a rather large contingent of their National Guard to quell the violence. And the president has said, if the states will not step in, he will step in and send heavily armed soldiers into these cities. In other words, he is creating a war zone. Hold on just a second, okay? We've got a lot of things. Here in Los Angeles, for instance, we were expecting a 6 p.m. curfew. It is now a 5 p.m. curfew. In other words, 1 hour from now, you should be off the streets. And there's a lot of stuff going on. For instance, the County Medical Examiner's Office in Minnesota, Hennepin County, has said that Floyd's death was homicide resulting from being restrained. However, an independent autopsy said that it was homicide due to asphyxiation. That was the cause of death of George Floyd. Another night of protests, probably another night of violence around the country. And we're trying to bring up the article right now so I can let you know what's going on. By the way, there's been a shooting at an Air Force base in this country, 2 dead on that. He is declaring himself the law and order president. He did that during remarks on Monday as peaceful protesters just outside the White House gates were dispersed with tear gas and flashbangs. With the constant sound of helicopter blades overhead and a steady succession of bangs from nearby, Trump said from the Rose Garden that he was committed to upholding laws and mobilizing military resources to end nationwide looting. Quoting Trump, "My first and highest duty as president is to defend our great country and the American people. I swore an oath to uphold the laws of our nation, and that is exactly what I will do." Trump said justice would be served for George Floyd, the unarmed black man who died after a white police officer knelt on his neck as he was being arrested. He also said that he was, quote, an ally of peaceful protesters. But in striking terms, Trump said that he would use his entire presidential prerogative to ensure violent protests end, declaring that he would deploy thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to bring order. Before his arrest, crowds of protesters were beginning to. 1 second, please. I need to get rid of this. Tell me what else he said and how they responded. Okay, goodbye. I do apologize. When you go to a website now, things start playing, and here we go again. So I'm going to try to finish this before our friends from CNN butt in. Before his address, crowds of protesters were beginning to gather outside the White House gates. A large convoy of military vehicles was seen driving through the White House complex and onto Pennsylvania Avenue. As Trump remained out of public view on Sunday and most of today, and as his aides deliberated on how and whether he should address protests, many of his allies were growing increasingly frustrated with what has felt like silence from the White House. Many of the president's traditional defenders, from campaign donors to Republicans on Capitol Hill to some in the conservative media, have privately grumbled that Trump has allowed several days to pass without addressing the nation or making any formal appeals for unity. What Trump has done publicly, tweet extensively about his grievances with Democratic state and local leaders, and mention the protests in the middle of a previously scheduled event, has best gone unnoticed and at worst fanned the flames of outrage for a second week. Some outside allies have reached out to the White House in recent days to push for an appearance from the president in which he would confront the crisis he has largely watched unfold from behind the closed doors or in his underground bunker. And it goes like that. It continues on and on and on and on. Just go ahead and do that. I forgot to tell you that basically that's what has happened. Civil war has been declared in this country. And on top of all that, we still have a pandemic that continues to grow day by day. We have help that's supposed to go to Americans, the second stimulus that is all clogged up. We got a lot of stuff going on. I don't know what to say anymore. I really don't. But I feel that we have seen the end of America as we knew it. Basically, that's it. Hopefully, I'll be back a little bit later tonight.